you guys hear me okay? Okay. I really support what Coach Keck does here for you guys, and I think the most important reason why you're here at this combine is wrestling's important to you. And specifically, you probably want to go to college. That's why you're here. So that's really my purpose. I coached with my father, Ron, for over 20 years at St. Louis Community College at Merrimack. And I think why that's relevant to this is junior college is the only level where we recruit guys in and send guys out. So we know what we're looking for, and we know what they're looking for after us. Okay, so you guys are just on the way in part, okay? So we're gonna follow this agenda. I think I have about 45 minutes. I'm gonna probably try to get it done in about 35 to 40 if you guys have questions. If you have a question and it's at that point, just jump in. It's always better if I'm not talking the whole time anyway, okay? Anybody who's my friend would be happy to say that. And I just spent 9 days doing the World Championship, so I'm kind of tired of my own voice. Okay, so we're going to follow this agenda, but the first thing we're going to talk about is graduation versus the clearinghouse, which is the number 2 item. So when you go to high school, there's a graduation checklist. And the example I'll use is when I went to high school, I needed a fine art. And I was so bad at shop class, I had to drop it and take mixed chorus or I wasn't going to graduate. And I was actually a good student because both my parents were teachers. But if I didn't have mixed chorus, I actually would not have graduated from high school. Some of you guys are really good schools and your counselors will make sure that you're graduating, but may or may not know about the clearinghouse. The mixed chorus class didn't count towards me being eligible for the clearinghouse. And we've got handouts here that's going to explain that, but these are parallel processes. You have to make sure you're going to graduate and you have to make sure you're clearinghouse eligible. So does that make sense? Okay. So the way the clearinghouse works, you guys have, if you want to flip to the second page on your presentation here, I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know how far you guys can see, but what you would do is go in, and if you don't know your high school code, you just type in your city or your high school name. Like when Coach Keck and I did this, we just typed in Park Hill High School, and when we did 2 Park Hills came up, Park Hill South, you just pick which one, and it tells you what your code is. Once that code comes up, if you go to a couple more pages, it'll tell you exactly which classes fall under, for each school, which classes count and don't count, okay? So wherever you are, if you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you're a junior, if you're a parent and you have a kid who's a 7th or 8th grader, and you know what's going on, that this kid might want to wrestle in college, your goal should be to put them in a math, science, English, and history class the first year that count. Usually you start in like geometry, maybe algebra 2, if you're, something like that. And you go to algebra 2, you go into trig, you go into calc, things like that, okay? But if you go to the next page where it says NCAA Clearinghouse, so it says English 1 through 4, American Lit, creative writing. Then for math, algebra 1, 2, 3, geometry, statistics. Obviously stuff above that, trigonometry, calculus. I'm a numbers guy, so I like using math classes as examples. Natural, physical science, so biology, chem, physics, things like that. Earth science is the one that counts for a lot of them, and earth science was generally a lot easier for most people than, like, say, physics. Social science, American history, civics, government, and then additional. Usually the ones that people use the most are foreign languages, and foreign language is a good thing to have, if more and more business and everything else is done worldwide and internationally, so that's really important, okay? So I'm not going to read this to you guys, but this is why Coach Keck provided this to you, but you need to make sure that you're taking core classes. You also need to make sure you're taking the non-core classes in order to graduate. For example, you got to take PE to graduate from almost any high school. Sometimes they'll even count your participation on a team as a credit, but that's not going to help you pass the clearinghouse. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, all right. The next one is the difference between your GPA and your overall GPA. So let's say that I have a 3.5, but I got an A in PE. Well, when you take that A out, my grade point is going to be below 3.5 because that was a 4.0. Does that make sense? And conversely, if I got a D in PE, it would actually be higher than a 3.5. Okay? Go ahead.
That just confused me all to get out.
Okay, so let me try to say it again, because I must be saying it wrong.
Okay.
If you have a grade point of 3.5, basically you have an average of A's and B's. Okay? If somehow in there, let's say that one of those A's was PE.
Okay.
If you take that out, then it'll come down. Okay? Yeah.
I think to clarify, why do you take the PE out?
Yeah, why do you take the PE out? Because it's not in the clearinghouse?
Yes.
Correct.
The clearinghouse is only math, science, English, history, and foreign languages.
Oh,
But you have to take PE in order to graduate
But it
from Blue
doesn't count
Springs
for the
South, or
clearinghouse.
from Kirkwood, or from Park Hill, or any, basically, any of the schools around here, whatever school you're at.
Right.
They won't let you graduate without PE. They won't let you graduate without mixed chorus. And trust me, like, watching me try to sing was terrible. Absolutely awful. Okay? So you just need to understand that you should have, and we're going to give you a spreadsheet, you should know what your overall GPA is, which is really simple. Your school will give you that, but what your core GPA is. Okay? And then the next thing tied to that is that there's a huge difference between an A minus and a B plus. In the clearinghouse, a B minus, a B, and a B plus all count the same. They all count as a 3.0. That's generally not the case at your school. Okay? Now, they could, if it's an honors class, and most of the honors classes I know, a B counts as a 4.0, an A counts as a 5.0. And so if you're taking those honors classes, you're probably aware of that because you're a pretty smart kid. Okay? But there's a huge difference between getting an A minus and a B plus, or a B minus and a C plus. A B minus is a 3.0. A C plus is a 2.0. So literally, and nobody wants to say this out loud, but if you have a 79.9, teacher can decide what to give you. She can give you a B or she can give you a C. He can give you a B or a C. It's really how much they like you. And if you tried, and if you weren't a jerk in class, and if you participated, things like that. So there's a couple young men I'm helping, and they had a bunch of like C pluses, B pluses, and I went through that with their parents, and they're like, it literally is the difference between whether you make the clearinghouse, and it also makes a difference whether or not you might qualify for academic money. And when we get into how money works, I got a couple guys here that sat in front of me that wrestled at high level. These guys know it's hard to get money because schools only have so much of it. They're trying to put together a 35-person roster on 9 or 10 scholarships. So they're trying to find any other ways to give you money and get into school. Okay? So the rest of this stuff on the clearinghouse before we get into aid, if you go to the page that says get ready, get set, go, which I think is your 4th page.
Can I ask a question on GPA real quick?
For sure.
What's the difference between the overall GPA and the cumulative GPA?
There isn't.
It's the same thing?
Your overall,
It's into all 4 years though, right? So he's a senior, so they're gonna look at all 4 years?
the college will?
Yeah.
Yes, like if he graduate, like he's in his senior year right now. So he has 6 semesters of GPA, correct? Yeah, so that's his overall. But again,
It's
like
also his cumulative, same thing?
it is his cumulative, but then his core GPA will be different because we're counting PE, we're counting mixed chorus, we're counting, maybe let's say that they needed an intro to math class in order to then be able to take geometry, those other things. That intro to math class won't be on the clearinghouse, but they might have got an A in it and it counts towards your overall.
I've never seen core GPA, I've only seen cumulative or weighted, so that's why it's just wording.
Well, I don't know where your kid goes to school.
Kansas, word for me.
Okay, so your counselor may or may, they don't get paid to know. They get paid to make sure your kid graduates. They don't get paid to make sure they go to Division I. And I'm not saying anything personal about your counselor, I'm just telling you that they get paid whether your son or daughter goes to the school they want to or not. They only get in trouble if they don't graduate. I mean, I had a guy that won nationals for me, and he came out of California and he had a 3.4 GPA, and he had a 3.2 core GPA. But he came to, when I was at Red Lake, because his counselor only got him in 14 core credits, and he needed 16. And I called his dad, and I've never heard a string of profanities put that way, like that ever. Like I thought he was going to lose, I thought he was going to assault the counselor. Because this kid was a good kid, he did everything he was supposed to, they just didn't put him in enough core classes. And he won nationals for us and went on to Oregon State. I mean, we knew he was gonna make it. That's how it worked out.
Can I ask you a real fast question?
Yeah, it works a lot better when I'm not talking the whole time, that's perfect.
Well, I've got athletes in 2 different sports. Does this clearinghouse work for all sports, or is this just for wrestling?
Great question. The question was, is a clearinghouse for all sports? The answer is yes. Okay. Was there another question? Okay.
No, I've got a junior, and I just want to make sure that I've got her on the right.
Yes, okay. So we're on the get ready, get set, go page. So the second part of it, where it says Division I academic eligibility, I'm not gonna read that to you. You guys can read that later. But when you start at the top there and it says, get your core class list, obviously not everybody here is in the 8th grade, but wherever you are, you need, like, is it your son or daughter, ma'am?
Son,
Your son, if it's 6 semesters in, like, hopefully he's got about 12 core credits right now.
what I'm worried about is your senior year, you get all your core classes, and then you start filling up with electives, and what you're telling me is that those electives aren't gonna help him.
It depends.
They're not core classes.
Well, like a foreign language a lot of times counts as an elective and a core class. So there's not a blanket statement to that, but what you can do if you want at the end is you can talk to Coach Keck or I, and we can get the list of your high school and we can try to help you personally, okay? So, but what she's saying is a good point for any of you guys that are younger than this, which is you don't want to be 6 semesters in and trying to figure this out, right? You want to be knowing on the front end. Here's the thing. You're here. You guys spend money. You go to Super 32s. You go to Fargo. You're paying for private lessons. You're doing all these things. And because I'm Joe's counselor and I didn't put him in U.S. history too, he doesn't get to go to Mizzou, that's a problem if he did everything else right. That's a real problem. So what we're trying to tell you is some of these people are not going to tell you this because they're either overwhelmed, they're covering 500 students, or they just don't know, and there's probably a small percentage that just doesn't care. Yeah, Q?
So if a student's short to the math class, the algebra 2, it's only core class is short, can a student take that class in the summer, like online, or to clear the clearinghouse?
It's a great question. The answer is yes, but you can't take a bunch of them really late. That's what they used to do, is like a kid would have a bunch of, like they'd have like 9 core credits and somehow jam in 7 their senior year. And the NCAA said no, because they'd have like 9 core credits of 1.8 and all of a sudden their senior year they'd have 7 of 3.2. And that looks like academic fraud.
Yeah.
If it's 1, you can. Online is really hard to get past because those are the easiest ways to cheat.
Yeah.
So you're probably better off literally going to a summer session at your school. The hard part is if Coach Ivanoff wants to offer me a scholarship, he doesn't really know if he can give me the scholarship because he doesn't know if I'm going to pass that summer school class. And that summer school class is going to end, 4 weeks before I'm supposed to be on campus at UCM?
Yep.
That's a problem, right?
Yep.
It is a solution, but it's obviously the procrastination solution. But if you're just here now, that might be your only solution.
I don't think you can do it after your graduation date though, right? It's gotta
Well, you can delay your graduation date, though. There's loopholes on that. That's how all these top 5 college football programs, the guys when you see them interviewed, they can't conjugate a verb, they all somehow pass the clearinghouse. Shocking, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
So now, like for NCAA clearinghouse, do you have to have 2 years of foreign language? Or not
You don't, okay, so the question is, for the clearinghouse, do you have to have 2 years of foreign language? The answer is no. You just have other cores. It's like you can take religion, you can take philosophy. It depends on what your school offers in that other category.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I took foreign language and I took 4 years of Spanish. I remember how to say the house is white, you're very pretty, and when do we eat? Okay? Which will get you pretty far. Those will get you pretty far. Okay? But I'm saying like those build on each other. Okay? Did you have a question?
No, I was just saying your Spanish is better than mine. Taco burrito and enchilada.
That'll get you pretty far too, honestly. That goes with right when do we eat, right? Okay, so the eligibility center, which coach has put on here under grade 10, that's something to check right away. You have to get yourself registered with them. And we're going to talk about how to get yourself recruited in a little bit. And that's important because what we want people to know is they can go right to that center and check your grades. Like, I can tell Coach Williamson I got a 3.4. He's not going to believe it till he sees it. Trust me, I coached in junior college for years. Nobody's transcript was what they said it was. I will also tell you this, if you're a parent and you say to your kid, what are you getting in that class, and he or she says, I don't know, I promise you it's not an A. We all know if we're getting A's. Okay? All right, so, I mean, basically the checklist is this. You need to be trying to take 4 core credits minimum every year. I would try to take 5 my sophomore year, because your senior year, like guys like Joe, guys like George, guys like Q, they were getting recruited, so they're taking recruiting visits, which means there's a lot of weekends there, and you go on a recruiting visit, I don't care what anybody says, you're not taking your books. You might take your books, your mom's happy with you, but those books are the same exact position in your backpack they were on Friday as they were on Sunday, am I right, guys? So you need extra time, okay? All right. The rest of this explains the difference between Division I and Division II eligibility. I believe I'm not up here just to read this to you, so I think you guys can read through this and almost do background noise while I talk. The last page is important, the one that's landscape format. This is a worksheet that I created. I worked with in junior college, what I would do is recruit basically a lot through the Division I's. I would find the guys that were unhappy, or the guys that they go, hey, we're recruiting this Mirikitani kid. Well, he's got a 1.7. Here's his number, David, go get him. Because he was Division I good and had junior college grades. Or he's got these grades, but this thing happened legally, or this thing happened ethically, or this thing happened socially, or this thing happened where he didn't get enough core credits. But I'm a numbers guy. I'm the kind of nerd that likes Google Sheets. I like Excel. That's why I don't have that many friends. But so on the left is the sliding scale. So this is probably worth talking to. How many people have heard somebody say what their ACT score is? How many of them heard us say it's like 22, 24, something like that? Okay? That's not your score. Your score is all 4 subjects added up, and then they divide it by 4, and then they take an average. Okay, so if George gets a 26, 27, 28, 29, that's a 27.5 average. They'll call it a 27 or 28, but his real score is 110. It's those numbers added up together. Okay? And that's important because when you see this ACT column here, and it starts out at 37, you're like, the best score you can get is 36. Did you guys do a typo? The answer is no. A 37 is basically a 9. Okay? Here's something else. How many guys know, or people know, you can take the ACT more than once? How many people knew that you can just keep the best score from each section?
Didn't know that.
Okay, so here's how this works. George takes the ACT and he gets a 24 in English, gets a 24 in math, gets a 24 in science, and he gets a 16 in history. You forgot who George Washington was that day. And he needs to get a certain score in he needs to get a 24 overall to get into school X. Because there's also the admission requirements now, which is a whole nother thing. George can retake the ACT and just focus on history. And he could get a 24 in history and a 9 in the other ones, and his overall score now is 24. You get to take the best of each one each time. If you take the test 4 times, 6 times, you'll have 6 times, you'll have 6 math scores, you get to circle the best one. 6 English scores, you get to circle the best one.
So when you tell somebody your ACT, when they ask you your ACT score, you can tell them specifically, I got this in math, this in English, and here's my average.
Yes, that's how you should tell them.
So when you go to fill out your eligibility, whether it's D1, NCAA, or whatever, and you put in your score, they can see just what you put in, or they can actually go in and look at your times you take it.
They got the test site. They don't care how many times you took it. They'll just get the best one.
They're going to do the same thing and take the best one.
Yes. Great question.
On your high school transcript though, when it says your ACT score, is that what the counselors are doing? Or are they just picking out your best average?
Are there any counselors in the room?
I'm training, that's why I'm asking some questions.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and please don't be offended, but most of the counselors don't work that hard. So the fact that you're asking a question means you'll probably be awesome at that job, okay? So they're gonna just put on there whatever they got. They're not gonna do anything extra. So if the ACT, like my brother took the ACT and got a 30, okay? So it says 30. Now I don't know if this stuff added to 120, 119, or 121, but it had to be one of those three numbers.
But if they've taken it several times, I didn't know that you could pull from each subject, like you said.
Okay.
And so he did improve, and he had a better score, but they only took that better score. I don't know if they went in and pulled from those subjects, like you said. So that'd be something that, I mean, how do I get his transcript changed? I would have to take them to ACT and say, this is what he got.
Yes,
I need you to
probably.
change it.
I think if you take away nothing from this session, understand this. You've got to own this. You've got to own your future. You can't count on anybody else to do it. You might have the best coach in the world. They can teach you single legs, double legs, high crotches, whatever. But that doesn't mean they know this. And I've had certain high school coaches go, yeah, I don't get involved with the recruiting process. I don't tell them what to take. To me, that's a huge cop-out. When you sign up to be a coach, you're supposed to be helping young men and women's future, and just knowing moves or studying film is not the whole gig. Okay, so this spreadsheet, Coach Keck put an example here together, and so we'll just probably focus on, let's say we'll focus on math. So he took Algebra 1A, then Geometry, that was taken in the 9th grade year. In the 10th grade year, Algebra 1B and Algebra 2. This student, Billy By, this is what we all want to see in the first round of a tournament, Billy By. Got a C and a B and an A and an A. A C calibrates to 2 points, a B 3, A 4. You multiply that by the number of units. So in other words, the Algebra 1A class was a semester, the Geometry class was a whole year, and the two other algebra classes were a semester. And so then you add those up, and he has 8 points and 2.5 units. So he has 2.5 units towards the 16, and he has 8 grade points. And at the end of that, like if to have a 2.0, you have to have 16 units and 32, because 32 divided by 16 is 2. Now, I'm already 25 minutes in, so I'm gonna kind of hustle, but you can retake a class also in high school. If you're doing well, and like, let's say Joe and I were goofballs our freshman year and we finally got it together and we both got a D in geometry, and now we got an A in trig, but that D is pulling us down, we can actually go back and take geometry, and if we get an A, that 1 goes to a 4.0. They'll keep the higher grade. Okay? This is a lot of material to cover. When Coach and I talked about this, he said, how long would it take? I'd say somewhere between a half an hour and 3 hours. So I'm gonna kind of fly through, but the questions are great, okay? So we're gonna talk about how athletic aid works. Division I has 9.9 scholarships. They can chop that up as many ways as they want. They can also count it different ways. So for example, one of the schools might do it is they might say, 9.9 scholarships is 18 hours in the fall, 9 hours in the winter, 18 hours in the spring, 6 in the summer. They add all those hours up, multiply it by 9.9, and then they can divide the hours up. Well, most kids, you're Division I, when did you ever take 18 hours in a semester? Never, right? Most guys took 12 or 15, right? So you can actually create extra scholarship there. Same thing with meal plans. They can go, we've got 9.9, 21 meal plans. Well, there's a training table. So we always eat breakfast at the training table, we always eat dinner at the training table. So now we just need 7 meals a week. Well, now we've turned 9.9 meal plans, we call that 10 into 30 meal plans. There's all kinds of stuff they can do. None of these coaches will tell you they do it, but they all do. This is probably a good point to say this. I was a coach for a long time. I was really, really good at recruiting. The last 4 years, our recruiting classes were ranked number 1, 2, 1, and 2 in the entire country, non-Division I. But the reason why I was good was I knew all this, and I was really honest with people. And what I mean by that is this. If you took a trip, you took a safari, you would take a guide, right? So you just don't run into a lion or a tiger or an elephant or whatever the hell out there could kill you, right? You can't post on Instagram if you're dead, right? Okay? These coaches do this safari 30, 40 times a year. They've been doing it for 10, 20 years. That's 800, 900 safaris. How many times are you doing it? One. Maybe 2 or 3 if you had an older brother or sister, right? And your parents didn't forget that and just wanted to call that a hellacious experience and block it out, right? They know more than you coming in. Their job is to get you there for the least amount of money. I don't care what anybody says. Hugh wrestled for me. He's coaching at UCM now. You want to get as many guys there for as cheap as you can. That's how you build depth. That's how you build a team. Your job is to get there for the most amount of money and pay the least amount possible. Sounds like you might have a conflict. So who knows the path better? We do. We do, not you. So ask the right questions. Make sure you understand, make sure you get every offer in writing, and don't make a decision based on pressure.
So you're saying that coaches were not gonna tell you these things, but I know
I'm
this
not
now.
saying coaches, because I'm not gonna speak for 800 coaches.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that they're not gonna tell me this, but now that I know this, it's okay
I can
for
tell
me
you
to
this,
ask.
we never lost a kid to another junior college we wanted because we proved that they wouldn't tell them the truth. There was like 3 or 4 questions we'd ask every time and go ask that coach that. That's why we got really good guys. Because moms and dads believe in the people that tell them the truth, even if it costs them a few more dollars.
Exactly.
Division 1, 9.9, Division 2, 9.0. Division 3 is based on financial need. There is no set number of scholarships they have. NAIA is a salary cap. And I'm gonna have to fly through some of these things here, okay? So I'm probably gonna hold questions for about the next 10 minutes. NAIA is like a salary cap. So if a school costs $40,000 and they need you to pay 24, they can give everybody 16. But that's not what they do. If they really want George, they give him 40. And then they give Joe and I a lot less and somebody else, so it all averages out to everybody paid 16. And then financial aid and all that stuff counts against the 24. So if Joe and I are Pell Grant guys and we get 6,000, that counts against it. If they can get us a work study job, that's 3,000. That counts against it. If they can get a tall, good-looking blue shirt guy, $5,000 a year scholarship, he gets to keep that one. If I get the corny Japanese guy standing in the front row, $1,000 scholarship, I get to keep that one. But NAIA, if you want the most money, NAIA can make it happen because it's salary cap. Okay? Junior college is 20 scholarships. There's no junior college in the country that has 20 scholarships, but that's the limit. Like if I went and started a junior college program, I would just ask them for 20 full scholarships and we would just win every year. Because you can break that up into 35 and then you just can't lose. There's just no way, unless you're just the world's worst recruiter. If you have 35 hammers, you can't lose. Okay? Collegeboard.com, probably one of the best websites for anybody here. They have financial aid scholarships, so there's a FAFSA calculator there. Your FAFSA number is something you have to know. Your FAFSA number is like golf, low score wins. FAFSA is how much your family contribution number is. Your FAFSA number will give you what's called your EFC, your expected family contribution number. If your EFC number is 0, they don't expect you to pay anything, which means you get a full Pell Grant, which is I think $6,100 or $6,200 this year. If your FAFSA number is over 6,000, you will not get any Pell Grant, but you can qualify for subsidized loans. If your FAFSA number is really high, you only qualify for non-subsidized loans, and if your FAFSA number is really, really high, you don't qualify for anything. But the number one thing, you're here, Q, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to ask a guy? Let me see your grades. I want to see your social media to make sure you're not smoking pot or something online. And what's your FAFSA number?
Yeah.
You don't know those things? First of all, clean up your social media, right?
First step.
First step, one you can do today at lunch, start deleting things. Okay. Number 2, we talked about know your grades. And number 3, have your, there's this, College Board has an estimated FAFSA number. You can say, I did the estimate, coach, here it is. That's gonna put you in the ballpark. Okay? Your FAFSA number changes each year. You have a couple kids, right?
I have 2.
2, they're 2 years apart?
They're a year and a half, junior, senior.
Okay, so the first year, your kid will qualify for less money because you only have 1 year in college. The second year, when they're both in college, you'll qualify for more, and the last year, when the first one gets out, you'll qualify for less.
Okay.
Okay? I'm just telling you how it works. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay?
Hey, no, I joked and I asked the guy we were on a visit with last week, I said, hey, I said, is there a discount for more than one kid going to the same school? He said, actually, there is.
Yes.
So it wasn't a dumb question.
All right, there you go.
Not dumb as I thought, anyway.
So under this, there's scholarships. So under scholarships, like we said, athletic, academic, special interest. Then there's financial aid, and we talked about this. Pell Grant is free money. Subsidized loans, that's where George gets $10,000 and he doesn't pay any interest. No interest accumulates, and he has usually 9 months to pay any of that loan back before interest accumulates. Unsubsidized loans, the meter is running on the interest the day you borrow it. So you don't have to be a financial planner to understand that the best money is the free money, then the loan with no interest, then the loan with interest. How much does the school cost? So we talked about this a lot. So let's say Ivanhoe University costs $30,000 and he's offering Joe $20,000. Joe's gonna pay $10,000. And Mirikitani University costs $80,000 and I'm offering Joe $40,000. Well, he's gonna pay $40,000. But my scholarship's twice as big as his, right? Like he can brag, well, they offered me $40,000 and he only offered me $20,000. Well, you're gonna pay less. Now, there's other things that go into it, right? Like, you know, when we make a decision on what we buy in life, it's not always just price, right? But, like, we buy Nikes and not no-name brands because we see there's a perceived value there. But if money matters to you, and it matters to all of us at some level, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, make sure it's not how much you're getting, it's how much you're paying. Make sure you understand that. And then the next one, which I think is Coach Keck's and I favorite story in all of this, is the loan versus the free money. So whenever I'm in Kansas City or he's in St. Louis or we see something, we'll usually try to grab dinner. Let's say I forget my credit card. Coach Keck goes, I got dinner, you can pay me later. Did he buy me dinner? Kinda, right? I didn't have to do dishes, right?
Right.
But did he buy me dinner? No. I need to get on Venmo and send him $30. He goes, hey man, it was really good to see you. It's been a long time. Dinner's on me. I'm gonna pretend like I'm gonna offer to pay, but I'm gonna let him pay. But I don't owe him the $30 anymore, right? Okay, so those are not the same thing. Coaches will try to talk to you like the same thing, like, hey man, you can go to school here for free. And then you graduate with $34,000 in debt. Like the first scenario, I didn't have a free dinner with Coach. The last time I saw George bought me dinner. He's never asked me for the money back. He could, he's a Bulgarian nightmare, he could just beat it out of me, but he just let me have dinner. So that's the difference, you guys have to understand that. Okay, we talked about the two schools comparison, in-state and out-of-state tuition. Okay, when you go on College Board, you punch in any school, it'll say how to pay. And there'll be a column for in-state and out-of-state. If you're interested in that school, you need to find out how quickly you can get in-state and what stuff you have to do. Usually it's changing your driver's license to that state. Usually it's getting 1 or 2 bills in your name in that state, and a lot of time it's getting like a part-time job in that state. But the difference in tuition is usually between $15,000 and about $32,000 a year. And a lot of guys and girls go for 5 years. That's about $100,000 average. So if your kid says, I don't want to go to the driver's license bureau, go, okay, give me $100,000, you can keep your license. Otherwise, get your butt over there and get it done. Okay?
If they are out of state, sorry, and they attend that college though, the second year, aren't they in-state?
No.
They live there? No?
Not automatically. When we were,
They have to change their information still?
I coached at Merrimack in St. Louis. We had a kid go there for 3 years and he basically never went home. And the difference in tuition was like $50 a credit hour. So for 30 hours, it was $1,500. They wouldn't let him have it the third year. He had bills, everything. But they're stupid. They're a junior college in St. Louis. They don't need the tuition. Like, you go to, and here's the other thing. Should be an obvious statement. Private schools doesn't matter because there is no in or out of state. Okay? It's like, I'm from Missouri. So like University of Missouri has in-state or out of state. Lindenwood University does not have in-state or out of state. Central Missouri has in-state and out of state because they're a state school. It's like if I was interested, they're going to try to help you get in-state because it costs less money, comes out of their scholarship budget less. Did I answer your question?
I did that at Boise State.
Say it again.
I did that when I transferred to Boise State, and it's a public school in Idaho. So out of state I think was like 28, and in state ended up being like, I don't know, less than like 16 or 18, like it might be even less than that. So I got my in-state license, and that made it a lot easier on the college coaches to give me full ride there, and I saved them like half a scholarship. If that makes sense.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your parents work in one state, like I work in Kansas, but I live in Missouri. So could he go to a Kansas school as in-state?
Yes. Depends what address you claim.
I claim Missouri
It
address.
probably has to be 18, right?
Yeah.
You think? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, and there's a whole nother conversation here where you can emancipate him, and then he gets everything, but then you got to prove you're not really supporting him. But if you do, then he's in state wherever he lives because he's not counting on you, and he gets full aid. And I can just tell you this in a nutshell: the full aid's a lot more than the child tax credit. I got like 6 minutes left. Regional tuition programs. So there are these programs in different chunks of the country where they will let you go to a school within that area for 150% of in-state tuition instead of the out-of-state tuition. So say, for example, an in-state tuition is $10,000 and out-of-state tuition is $30,000, which is probably pretty close to what Boise State was. Okay, there's a program out there in Idaho, if you fall in certain states, where you can go for 150%. So instead of paying 30, you could just start at 15, because 150% of 10 is 15. So if you do that, the coaches love you to begin with. I think the name of our presentation today was Know Your Worth and Show Your Worth. So the last thing here was make yourself easy to recruit. And Coach Keck has this document. We put it together for Trey Crawford, who goes to school here. I know Trey's dad, Bobby. He was a Division I All-American, and we just know each other from around. I like Trey. When I was at the Olympic Training Center, he was one of the guys I was responsible for. So we put a document together for him. And every Division I coach I've talked to said, I wish every kid would do this. But one page was his information, one page was his transcripts, one page was his ACT scores, one page was a list of videos of matches he'd won and lost. Here's a tip: don't send coaches matches you've only won, because unless you're undefeated in everything in life, that's an inaccurate representation of yourself. We all lose. It's better to show, if Q's the defending national champion, I lost to him 7-4, that's actually a pretty good video to show. Now, if he rolled me up 10-0 in 20 seconds, maybe I find a better one to show. Okay? So we had that. We had references, like people that would vouch for him character-wise. And I think Coach Keck and I can share that document with you, minus his personal information, but the format, so you guys can see how to do that. We did it in Google Sheets, because Google Sheets is really easy. You can just hit share. If I want Coach Williamson to see this, and he's the coach at Williamson University, I talk to him, I go, hey, this Trey Crawford kid, man, he's for real. You're like, awesome. I'm like, can I see his matches? Everything's on here, Coach. Well, my email is joe@williamson.edu. Coach, I just hit the share button, add him, text him, did you get it? Yep, going through it now. Easy. Did pretty good, Jason. I got 3 minutes left. Questions? 2, yeah, front, back, go ahead.
I've got a question with the NCAA clearinghouse. Do you have to fill out anything for NAIA or junior college? But I mean, you go online, fill out some kind of clearinghouse for the NAIA, JUCO, or that?
JUCO, you don't even have to graduate high school. You can get your GED.
What about NAIA?
There's no clearinghouse. There's a clearinghouse now? So what's the new format? Where do they have to go? NAI.org? NAI.com? NAI.com? Org. Okay, that's okay. All right. Well, he had a question next.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. On your transcripts from high school, the responsibility falls on student and parents to make sure the transcripts are put together properly?
No. I'm not saying they're put
Is that
together.
already done automatically?
No, we're not saying, like, if you got an A in, if you go to Park Hill, it's their job to make sure your transcripts are put together correctly. But I would double check them, because if there's human error, the person that's gonna be impacted by that is you, not the school.
Yeah, a lot of these kids, the parents will probably start with things like Captain View and some of those other recruiting websites. What does it take on these?
The only one I really work with is collegerussellrecruiting.com. Those guys sponsor the charity work we do, so we vetted them, and I feel like they do things the right way. That is not in any way to disparage or encourage what anyone else does. I have zero, I couldn't even comment intelligently about those other sites, okay? I mean, but what I would tell you is this, like guys like Trey Crawford, there's some people, I know a lot of people in coaching. I mean, I'm lucky enough, I work for Track Wrestling. I do 2 podcasts a week. There was a couple guys I called because I knew Jason, I knew Bobby. Ultimately, what it comes down to in recruiting is networking. It's the right person that has to see you. So the real question is, are those people going to actually be able to get you in front of the right people? It's not a question of how many kids use that site. It's a question of how many college coaches use that site. Like, it's one of the reasons we run Missouri Border Brawls, because people see kids in that event. And there's good matchups, so like, people get to beat guys or not. Like, we knew how good Noah Certain was, but everybody else in the country did after he wrestled Jeremiah Reno. Because Jeremiah Reno's legit, and Noah beat him. So those are the kind of, that's a secondary conversation. That's why you guys go to Super 32 and stuff like that, right? That's why you go to Fargo, is to beat somebody you're not supposed to beat. Right? Yeah.
One last, sorry.
I don't care. I'll talk till he put a gong up there. He said he's going to hit it when my time is out. So just go ahead.
NAIA, I've heard that you can no longer double dip and get academic scholarships and sports scholarships. You have to do one or the other. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So it just depends.
He said it depends on the institution. Is it for the people in the front?
Yes.
It's a school-by-school decision, correct? Okay.
You may not be able to double dip, but the school that we went to was at NAIA this past week, and they told us that we couldn't do both, academic and athletic, but we could, if he went on outside to do the special interest ones, you know, if he's the, you know, like you said, the best looking kid with a beard, then he could get
Something I'll never win, but go ahead. Yeah. What other questions we got?
What's the fee for to fill this out? I'm sure there's a fee.
I mean, I'm sure the clearinghouse charges you something, but I don't,
There's a fee, but also if you qualify, you get like a waiver to get your thing put in for free. So like all about your income as well. So if you make under X amount, it's free, and your school can pay for it. After high school budget pays for your ACT school and stuff gets submitted into clearinghouse.
I think the kind of crappy answer is you got to do it, right? So, you know, it's like if you want to drive, how much they charge you for your license?
So, but I mean, if you take that ACT multiple times, you've already entered it once, I mean, can you go back into your account and update your?
Oh, yeah, once you're in, yes, correct. Anything else, guys? So if you have more questions about any of this stuff, or you want individual help, contact Coach Keck, and he and I will make sure we get back to you. I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate all the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.